Hello everyone and welcome back to our videos in Bazara Aviation Academy. Today inshallah our class will be about fuel system, and this is the third class about the fuel system. Before we start our class today, I will answer the last homework, and the last homework was what are the forms of contamination on a fuel system. The contamination are solid, water, surfactants or microorganisms. Today, inshallah, before we start our class, I hope by the end of this video, all the students can able to understand the meaning of fuel injection system and the types of fuel injection system, and can understand the large reciprocating engine aircraft fuel system and jet transport aircraft fuel system. Fuel injection system. The fuel injection system use a fuel injection control unit and a fuel distributor manifold unit instead of the carburetor. What are the types of fuel injection system? It has two types. Types are called RSA system, and the second type called Teledyne continental system. Teledyne continental system. This is the first type of fuel injection system. This system used on high wing aircraft and single engine aircraft. This type consists of two tanks, accumulator tank, selector valve, electric pump, strainer or filter, engine driven pump, fuel injection control unit, and the last one, fuel injection distributor. Here the fuel will go from these two lines that connected to the accumulator tank and connected to the selector valve. The fuel will go from these lines by gravity because it's high wing aircraft. After that, when it arrives to the accumulator tank, from the lowest point of the accumulator tank, the fuel will go to the selector. The selector have two positions. Even from the right tank, the fuel will go to the engine, or from the left tank. After it goes from the selector valve, the fuel will arrive to electric vane pump. The electric vane pump, it will use for supply the fuel to the engine in the first time. After the engine run, the electric vane pump will turn off and the engine driven pump, it will turn on. Here, when the fuel arrives to the strainer, after it filtered, it will go to the engine driven pump. The engine driven pump will deliver the fuel to the fuel injection control unit, where the fuel that is needed for the engine operation will go to the fuel injection distributor, and after it goes to the fuel injection distributor, it will go to each cylinder. Here in this area, or in this component, fuel injection control unit, the excess of fuel that the engine doesn't need it will back to the engine driven pump, and from the engine driven pump it will go to the selector valve, and from the selector valve to the accumulator tanks. Here, when this fuel back to our selector valve and to the accumulator tank, it will has a vapor. This vapor, it will goes to the wing tank and vented. The second type of fuel injection system is called RSA system, and this system used for single aircraft or multi-aircraft and used with Lycoming engine. This system consists of here, before we talk about the components, here we have multi-engine, and it consists of two tanks in each wing, two selector valve, one selector valve for the engine, for the right engine, and the another for the left engine, and two strainers also, one for the right engine and the second one for the left engine. Also we have two electric fuel pump and two fuel injection metering unit, and the last one two fuel injection distributor. In this system we don't have, or the system doesn't have, return the fuel to the tank like the first type, and this type used cross feed system. What's the meaning of cross feed system? That means the right tanks can feed the left engine and the left tanks can feed the right engine from the selector valve, and it's called cross feed system. The RSA system uses a combination of differential fuel pressure to regulate and meter the fuel flow. The fuel will supply from the tank to the selector valve by gravity, and after selected from the selector valve would deliver to the strainer. In the strainer, the filtered fuel will deliver to the electric fuel pump. In the electric fuel pump, the fuel will pressurize and deliver it to the fuel injection metering unit. The metered fuel will supply from the fuel injection metering unit to the fuel injection distributor and will goes to each cylinder. And like the right engine, the same operation will goes with the left engine. In this figure, we will talk about the large reciprocating engine aircraft fuel system, and it used today on the large radial engines, and before many years it was used in Douglas DC-3. How this system works? When you see the figure you will see it complicated, but actually it's easier than you think. Here we will say the component of our system. The system consists of two tanks on each wing. The first one is the main tanks, and the second one is the auxiliary tank. After that we have a selector valve. After the selector valve we will say in number 19 wobble pump. After the wobble pump we have a strainer, and we have our strainer. For every engine we have a strainer. After that we have a cross feed, and we know what's the meaning of cross feed and how it works. After that we have the engine driven pump. After the engine driven pump we have the carburetor. Now the fuel will go from the main tanks to the selector valve. After it delivered to the selector valve, it will go to the wobble pump. The wobble pump on the later aircraft, they was used the booster pump in place of the wobble pump. The wobble pump will raise the pressure of the fuel and deliver it to the strainer. After it goes to the strainer and the fuel is filtered, it delivers to the engine driven pump. The engine driven pump will pressurize the fuel and deliver it to the carburetor. After it goes to the carburetor, it will mix with air and enter to the engine. The same way will happen in the left tank. We have fuel and it will goes from the tank to the selector valve, and from the selector valve it will goes to the wobble pump. After it delivers to the wobble pump, it will go to the strainer, and from the strainer will arrive to the engine driven pump, and from the engine driven pump it will go to our carburetor and to the engine. Here we have the cross-feed valve. The cross-feed valve, when you see here the green line, you will say the connection will start from the engine driven pump and it will go to the engine driven pump. So if the left engine needs more fuel or needs fuel from the right, the cross it will be open and the fuel it will go from the right engine driven pump and will deliver to the left engine driven pump, and it will go to the carburetor and will enter the engine. If we have a vapor in the fuel vapor will go from this area with the purple line and it will back to the tanks, and the same way on the right tank, on the right engine it will back before it enter the carburetor and will back to the system or to the. Also we have the fuel pressure gauges. How the reading it comes from the pivot valve. Here when we say the pressure, it will goes and it will directly go to our fuel pressure gauges, and this by the same token it will go from the pivot valve and will go directly to the gauge. This for the left tanks and this for the right tanks. Jet transport aircraft fuel system. This figure talk about the Boeing 727 airplane, and it has 3 engines. This system or the jet system, it's easier than the reciprocating fuel system, and the component of the jet engine fuel system, it's less than the component of the reciprocating engine. Here we will say the component of the jet transport aircraft, and it consists of 3 tanks. After that it consists of post pump and a cross-feed manifold, and consists of fueling valve and defueling valve, and we have a fueling receptacle, and the last one we have the fuel dump nozzle valve. How fuel can receive from the tank to the engine? We will see now. When the post pump works, it will compress or compress the fuel and it will deliver it to the engine directly like this. And this the 3rd tanks, it will have a post pump and it will go to the engine. If we want to take fuel from the left tank or from the tank 3 to the engine number 2, we can use the cross-feed valve. Can we open the cross-feed valve here, and the fuel will arrive to the engine number 2 and also can arrive to the engine number 1. What the function of fueling receptacles? The fueling receptacles here used for fueling the tanks. How that's come? When we see here the opening area here, it used for take the truck nozzle for fueling truck, and it will goes from this and will go to the fueling valve and will enter the engine number 2, the tanks number 2. After that, it will go to the fueling valve and enter the tank number 1, and here it will open the fueling valve and enter the tank number 3. After that, we have the manual defueling valve. This manual defueling valve used for defuel the tanks of the engine when the aircraft on the ground. We will connect the nozzle of the truck in this area, and the fuel will come from the boost pump to this area and will go to the manual defueling valve, and from the manual defueling valve will back to the truck and will go from here and here, also from this area, and will go all the fuel from the 3 tanks to the manual defueling valve. What about if the aircraft on flight and there is imbalance between the left wing and the right wing because the quantity of fuel? If the quantity of the fuel on the right tanks is more than the quantity of fuel in the left tank, the pilot can make something called defueling. How that's come? It will open the fuel nozzle or the fuel dump nozzle valve. It will open, and the boost pump will deliver fuel from this area, and from the manifold will go to the outside of the aircraft, and it will make balance between the wings and make the aircraft balanced. Before we end this figure, we have to focus on the tank number 1 and tank number 3. They are integral tank. What's the meaning of integral tanks? That what we will discuss about it on the next lesson, inshallah, on the aircraft, in the aircraft engine or fuel system components. And here we will focus on the center tank or tank number 2. We have 4 boost pump, and on the left and the right tanks we just have 2 boost pump.